Planning Commission meeting on August 28th, 2018. We'd like to start by having a call to order and a roll call, please.
Chairman Cox.
Here.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam.
Here.
Commissioner Yates.
Here.
Commissioner Ferris.
Here.
Commissioner Dehan.
Here.
5 present.
Thank
we have
you.
A quorum.
Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Jessica, can you lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You can be seated. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second.
Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Yates.
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner Dehan.
Aye.
5 ayes. Motion carries.
I have one modification to the agenda this evening. On our public hearing, we'd like to continue. Where's my item?
7B.
I don't have a B. Oh, double-sided. Excuse me. Site plan review, SPR 18-8, Sunland Apartments, will be continued to another meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting? Or do you need to do a roll call on that? Yes, sir.
Daryl Whitten with Cornerstone Engineering. Could we have it continued to a date certain so it doesn't have to be re-advertised?
Well, that's why we just continued it, so you wouldn't have to re-advertise.
Okay.
And they're going to try and put it together in the next 2 weeks instead of waiting for another month.
Okay.
That's how I understand it.
I thought you had to continue to a date certain in order to not re-advertise. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Do you have a date in mind?
I would like, 30 days. Let's go to the next Planning Commission hearing.
Okay.
It's fine.
So to September 25th.
Thank you, Daryl. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Yates.
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner Dehan.
Aye.
5 ayes. Motion carries.
We come to item 6, our public comment section. Persons wishing to address the Commission on matters that are within the Commission's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the Planning Commission may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name and address. We will now open the public comment portion at 6:04.
Hello. I'm not sure if this is on the agenda now or not, but here for General Plan Amendment 1701. Can I speak at public or not?
1701 is on the agenda, so we'll open it up to the public at that time. Thank you. Since I see no other mad rush, we will close the public comment portion at 6:05. We'll move on to item 7. I now declare this public hearing open. Our Section A, Red Rock Village General Plan Amendment, GPA 17-01, zoning change, and ZC 1701, site plan review, SPR 17-06, the development agreement. Staff report.
So the application for consideration tonight is a general plan amendment, a zone change, a development agreement, and we would ask the commission to recommend those for approval to City Council. And then there is an additional site plan review that would be approved on the basis that the council approves the other. So this item is located on Down Street, adjacent to the Bowman Wash on vacant land. So background on it, this property was previously considered by Planning Commission in April of 2017. At the recommendation of the city attorney, the project was referred back to staff for preparation of all the components of the project to be considered at one time. The current proposal has the addition of a development agreement. And so the general plan amendment, which is GPA 17-01, the northerly parcel is designated RM, which is residential medium density, with a density range of 5.1 to 14 dwellings per acre. The southerly parcel is designated as CV, which is commercial village, and the general plan land map identifies this parcel as Village Commercial Center. The general plan amendment request both parcels be designated as RH, which is residential high density, with a density range of 14.1 to 29 dwellings per acre, and removal of the Village Commercial Center designation from the southerly parcel. The zone change, the existing zoning is commercial general on the southerly parcel, and it's R2 family residential on the northerly parcel. So those would be changed to R3, which is medium density multifamily residential for both parcels, and that is subject to approval of the general plan amendment. A copy of the development agreement is included in the staff report. There are some minor modifications to one of the exhibits.
They are.
So Exhibit C in the development agreement, it has a, it's page 39. So in the phasing, we have a correction of the units for phase 2, and that would be 66, and then a correction for phase 3 would be 110. Also, you can see there's time frames in the second part of that. And
days.
so for phase 2, it would be 6 months, and for phase 3, it would be 12 months. So the development agreement has the owner responsibilities in that Exhibit B that we just adjusted. And then, so for Phase 1, South Down Street improvements include the center median to Bowman intersection and drainage impact fees for Phase 1. Phase 2 is designed for Bowman Road and drainage channel and pay drainage impact fees for Phase 2.
Can you say it, repeat it again? Is there any change in that?
No, this is not changed.
No.
So this is the site plan. The site plan is for 198 multifamily residential community in 3 phases. Phase 1 consists of 22 units and the parking. Phase 2 is for 66 units and the parking and 5,000 square foot community building with a pool and a spa. Phase 3 is located at the east of Phase 1 and 2 and will complete the build out by adding 110 units and parking. This is Phase 1. And here are some site pictures. And elevations. Some of the conditions for approval. Condition number 23 requires a detailed plan submittal for subsequent phases, a lot merger to tie the 2 parcels, decorative treatment such as pavers or colored concrete to a depth of 10 feet will be required, and then the trash enclosures are constructed with decorative material. An initial study was concluded that the proposed project would have a less than significant impact on the environment, and a negative declaration has been prepared for review and adoption by the Planning Commission. The initial study was submitted to the State Clearinghouse for distribution for comments for a 30-day period from May 24th, which ended on June 22nd, 2018. Staff received comments from the Department of the Navy, and a response was returned to them on August 15th. Staff recommends the adoption of Resolution 1822, recommending City Council approve General Plan Amendment 17-01, adopt an ordinance approving zone change 17-01, and approve development agreement, and adopt Resolution 1823, approving the site plan review 17-06, subsequent to the conditions of approval and subject to the approval of General Plan Amendment 1701, Zone Change 1701, and the development agreement by the City Council. We also have our consultant planner, Ahsoka, here, if you guys have any further questions.
That concludes your report.
That
concludes. Mr. Witten, are you is the designer here on this one? I know that you do the engineering.
The developers are here,
Okay.
and they're available to answer any questions.
Can you scroll back to this picture for me? So I want to go back to the layout of the full development, and so I need to have a question answered either by staff or the developer or the engineer. Originally, for at least 2 of our commissioners, we've heard this project twice before, and so was there an agreement or anything made with the city staff as far as water detention or use of the Bowman Channel? Because that was not in our report. I noticed, at least on my hard copy, there's a small detention basin here, but it's on, I noticed, if I can turn that on, right there. On my printed copy, it says detention basin, but here it looks more like just landscaping. So I'm wondering what the plan is for water.
If you'll recall the comments, we had a discussion, I don't know if it was the last Planning Commission or the one before, about the whole concept of detention basins in the city. And
last one.
whether they were effective or not. And this project has been a real interesting one. We're actually working with our flood modeling right now and looking at the whole project and the hydrology on it. And the reason we are moving away from a detention basin on this project is because if you look at the flooding that comes past this site, in the 100-year storm event, if you envision a hydrograph where over a 24-hour period, the flooding starts and it peaks and then it drops off and goes back to nothing. On a time scale, the discharge from this site will exit the site relatively fast, because out here you have flash floods. And so you'll end up where the peak discharge from the site happens relatively early in the whole hydrologic event, and the peak happens up here at the front end. The major flooding hits about 6 or 7 hours later, at which time this water's already gone down the Bowman Wash and it's gone. And so the idea of having a detention basin to shave the peak off of this little flow right here, when you've got 1,300 CFS that are going to hit the site about 6 hours later, it ends up kind of being a futile effort.
Well, I understand that, but I also have to look at if we did that for everybody, then it would be a cumulative effect. So I'm not having a problem, because if you'll remember the last time this came before the commission, we talked about the use of the Bowman Channel. Mm-hmm. And so I'm wondering, have you worked with staff and the engineering department here to utilize the Bowman Channel where we're not showing detention basins here? Because until that's changed, or if we change that, it's still a requirement. And so there needs to be some sort of an agreement.
Okay. Well, the project still has to comply with the City of Ridgecrest hydrology manual and the City of Ridgecrest drainage ordinances. So whether we end up with a detention basin on site or deal with it in another way, we have to show Lauren that our project is dealing with the hydrology and the flood routing in a responsible manner.
Let me approach this a different way. Lauren, can you come up for a minute? In reading the staff report, I see that some of their requirements is improvement to the Bowman Channel. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Okay. So wouldn't this be their contribution for the use of the Bowman Channel for water runoff?
Yes, and what Daryl's saying is quite true. When you look at a unit hydrograph, you usually see the peak on major flood control facilities much later than what a local site might realize for their runoff. And so the real intent of having the detention basins, granted the cumulative effects are a consideration. However, if you look more inland where there aren't any flood control facilities or any storm drain facilities, the detention makes sense there, because if you detain it, then you're metering off that water at a rate that the streets can handle it, or any storm drain might be able to handle it. And you're not having to build large master plan facilities to handle that if you allow it to instantaneously run off. But in this case, this project is immediately adjacent to a major flood control facility, which would enjoy a benefit by being able to discharge directly to that. So the detention for this site really is much different than something that is quite distant away from any flood control facility or any storm drain facilities. It enjoys the benefit of having a large flood control facility immediately adjacent to it.
Okay. So that's really where I was wanting to go, was that if we had somebody that came in and says, well, you didn't require to this one, you did require to this one, and you are actually participating in the Bowman Channel, and it's mostly for the help of the commissioners that weren't here on the subsequent times that came before the Planning Commission, is that is where you're covered and you're participating. I do have one other question for the developers. Last time that we saw this, on the east side of the development, you were going to make a break in the wall and put a Class 1 bike trail over to the city's bike trail.
Correct.
And
yeah.
that is, and you agreed with that then, and now it's been taken out.
Well, the project configuration was different. Now our southerly property line is immediately adjacent to the bike path.
Right.
So really, effectively, we'll connect with the bike path by making a break in that southerly property line with probably controlled access, and we'll be able to exit the property directly to the bike path.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Commissioners?
Yes, I have a question. I don't know if I'm missing it in here. I didn't see it before. But with these pictures, we saw lots of pretty grass and landscaping. Are you thinking about xeriscaping, or what are your designs with that as we're concerned about water issues in the future?
Yeah, it's going to be a desert palette and xeriscaped. It's going to all be, a modern desert xeriscape design.
Okay.
Very modern.
Okay. I didn't know if that was in here and I was just missing it, or if that's just going to be up to your discretion.
Well, I think we're required to be drought tolerant, so it is our intent to,
Thank you.
follow that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners?
I do have a general question, mainly for the city. It says city agrees to reimburse the owner for design of the master plan portion of the street and drainage improvements. Do we know how much it would be approximately costing, and did the city have the budget for that?
It comes out of development. The funds that they would pay, redevelopment. So.
The intent there in participation is to utilize the drainage impact fees to go to our city council and ask them to allow the drainage impact fees to be the funds to participate. We did not want to try to fund from the general fund or any other fund, but to utilize the developer's drainage impact fees to offset or to participate in those master plan proportions of the facilities.
And Heather, I have a question about the reimbursement of costs on Exhibit B, page number 36. For Phase 1, we did not stipulate that condition, whereas for Phase 2 and Phase 3, we said we'll reimburse the costs per city.
Yes, and the reason was it's kind of a phased, with their phasing, they are actually going to be building the improvements along downs first. And those are requirements just for any development. Along their frontage, they build those improvements, the median, the curbs, gutters, sidewalks, any match-up pavement. On Phase 2, however, we start moving towards the design of those off-site improvements. So Phase 2, we're asking for them to begin the design and a reimbursement for any of the portion of that work that is of a master plan proportion. Then in Phase 3 is where the actual reimbursement comes in. That's when the construction of those off-site improvements are and of those master plan proportioned improvements. So it's kind of a phasing of when the participations would occur as they develop.
So to be very clear, in Phase 1, city will not reimburse anything to them, right?
That's correct. No, Phase 1 is strictly their improvements. If you look at Phase 1, it's just along the frontage of downs and doesn't really affect any of the master plan proportions. But as you move further southerly, as you develop Phases 2 and 3, now you're contiguous to the Bowman Channel and the Bowman Road.
And like any corner development, any project that does occupy a corner, they're responsible for those improvements along that corner. Well, in this case, we have very large master plan improvements for both Bowman Road as well as the Bowman Channel. Well, they have a fair share of the participation in that, but a much larger portion of that is master plan proportions, in which we'd use drainage impact fees or traffic impact fees to pay for our portion of those master plan proportions of roadway and drainage channel.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
I do have some questions. Can I come back later? Or?
Yes, it'll come back to you. I was going to turn it over.
I had
to
a
the public.
question for the.
Yes.
Do you all have a proposed start date for phase 1?
Probably be roughly 6 months from now.
6 months from now?
As fast as we can get the plans approved and through the city, and Ron Strand has indicated to us that if we don't use the county planning or plan check department, we use the consultant, that they'll be able to help us fast track it through. And we're willing to start as soon as we get the plans approved.
Thank you.
I'd like to turn the time over to the public for public comment on this matter. Any questions for the commission or for the developer? State your name and address.
My name is Axel Alvarez. I live on the 800 block of Nevada, so right across from this. Can we go to the previous picture?
Which picture do you want to go to?
That one.
Okay.
So not here to oppose the development or anything like that. I'm here to bring up a couple of concerns and see if there's mitigating factors being considered. Currently, exiting from Willow, heading towards Downs, it's really difficult to see the traffic oncoming from the southern direction.
Are you talking right here?
I'm not sure which way what is.
Okay,
I believe,
so this right here is Bowman.
Okay,
and
so
that's Downs.
Right. So up is west, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Up is west.
Okay. So on Willow Street, which is just at the top of right where number 6 is.
Okay.
Basically, or I'm assuming, right? Yeah, that's right. So exiting there and making a right or a left. Looking at the traffic oncoming north and south on there is pretty difficult to see the traffic, especially if you're in a vehicle that's small, like a Civic or something like that. Is there stuff in the medium? There's stuff in the medium. Yeah, there's trees and, but also in that particular location, the slope of Downs slopes down, so you can't really see the oncoming traffic. So. Not sure if there's any thoughts on there. The concern that I have is the additional traffic that potentially will result out of that is now causing some problems for people that are exiting Willow. Additional concerns are Bowman and Downs. I've witnessed 5 accidents myself in that location. 4 from the backyard of my house. 1, the car in front of me was hit. The car was crossing Bowman from the west side of Downs, crossing all the way to the east. The young lady came across from Bowman. She got hit on the west side of the Downs from the south traveling traffic. Once those 2 cars stopped, the young lady restarted her car. Then she proceeded to cross the street to get out of the way so she didn't block the traffic. And she got hit from the oncoming northbound lane yet again. That happened right in front of me. So that's 5 accidents that I've witnessed in the time frame that the Bowman Street was added. So trying to just bring this forward to you guys that the increase in traffic is It's going to be hazardous. I'm not sure if you guys have thought of this. Not sure if there's a traffic light in the future for us there, but that's a very dangerous intersection now. It's basically crossing double highway or double street, right?
4-lane.
And it's in a position where from I'm not sure if the brown building there is where traffic would exit or enter this facility. So that is opposite to Willow, I'm assuming. So it's no different. So now we have the folks from Willow exiting. We have the folks from this development exiting. We have additional traffic that is going to have to deal with the same situation, and the additional traffic that is potentially going to be in and out of Bowman and Downs. So are there any plans to mitigate the additional traffic? Are there any plans to make any additions or subtractions or anything to the medium in order to facilitate the traffic being able to see? And is there a plan for a light to be installed in Bowman and Downs? Has there been any traffic studies for the number of cars that will be traveling up and down that facility daily?
Lauren, is there, I remember something from Infrastructure Committee on Bowman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we presently have an HSIP, a Highway Safety Improvement Program project for a 4-way stop intersection for Downs and Bowman. We're right on the doorstep to be able to advertise that project. First of all, we've got a sewer line we have to replace there. We're going to launch that project very soon as well. We get the sewer line reconstructed through that intersection, and then we'll start our all-way stop at that intersection.
Thank you. Mr. Whitten, I'm curious about this. We have a turn pocket right here that goes on to Willow, but there is no left turn pocket coming into the development.
The left turn pocket is one of the conditions of approval for the project. So we're basically going to design something that's identical to the turn pocket on the south side of the intersection. It'll be the mirror image of it on the north side. And
So-
we did do a traffic study on the project, and it showed that there was no mitigation measures required, frankly, because there's not a lot of traffic on Downs. The site distance issue, I'm going to drive out there and see if there's something we can do for that. Trim trees, do something like that, because the speaker is correct. The high point in Downs before it starts to go down towards the Bowman Wash is to the west, or it's to the south of that intersection at Willow. And so if you were in a small car, and I can see what he's talking about, that there might be a sight distance issue seeing on the other side. So we'll see what we can do about trimming trees or changing landscaping, doing something like that so that we can see southbound out of that intersection better.
Well, the 4-way stop will help too. We've been aware that there's a problem there, and so that's why the plans have been to put that in. Did you have further comment?
Yes, sir. So the 4-way stop would be in place before this development starts, or would that be after? And also, are there any mitigation plans in place while the construction is happening for whatever heavy equipment's parked out there, constructing or doing whatever? Are there any mitigating plans in place to potentially keep more accidents from happening there?
Well, some of the conditions that are put upon them is dust mitigation, and they're only doing certain phases. And so they have plenty of land to park their equipment on that's not on the public access. So
Okay.
that should be fine. Do we have a time frame, Lauren, on that stop sign, I guess, between sewer and that? Would that be done within 6 months?
Yes, yeah. We're right on the doorstep to be able to launch the advertising and accept bids.
So, yes, it would be done before their development started.
Okay. And the last one, maybe the studies don't show a lot of traffic, but I lived there for the past 12 years. There's plenty of traffic that goes there at all times of the day and at night. I know, your study says one thing. I live there, so may want to look at that again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Any other comment, public comment on this issue? Commissioners?
I do have a couple of comments. On page 16, Draft Planning Commission Resolution 1822, site plan should be referred as, I think, 5/4/18 because that's the resubmittal date.
Where you at? I see on page 16, but where on 16?
Page 16, right?
Yeah, page 16.
Oh, I'm looking at the old binder. On the resolution?
Right, draft resolution.
Yeah,
Where are?
so right here.
Okay, right.
Site plan review, that is the resubmittal date should be 5/4/18. So that's what we are basing our site plan review, right?
(17-06) applications have been filed on. No, that's the date that they were filed. Today would be the date that we approved if we.
No, the resubmittal date is 5/4/18. I think we should have that date because when you go to the resolution for approval of the site plan, which is page 45,
Right.
general conditions item 1, we are stating the approval is based on site plan dated 4/5/2018.
For May 2018?
Yeah.
I would concur. If we're referencing the site plan of May 4th, 2018, then we should have that correction here that this site plan applications have been filed on 5/4/18 instead of April 6th, 17.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
my name is Sasuka Herat by way of introduction, and I'm the consultant who worked on this application on behalf of the city. The resolution 18-22, which starts on page 16,
Right.
it's a planning commission resolution recommending to the city council the approval of the general plan, approval of the zone change, and entering into a development agreement.
I understand that.
Right. And it references those applications that are submitted for processing, those 3 applications.
Oh, separate applications.
And the site plan is a separate approval which is done by the planning commission. And that resolution is on your page.
Yeah, I understand that. It is on
Page
page
30,
45.
Page 40. I'm sorry.
But if you are referring site plan review on page 16, we should give the correct date for site plan review, right?
The site plan that's
Two different site plans.
2 different site plans. And the site plan that we are approving is not the old one that was submitted originally. And it was this plan that was submitted. The difference between the 2 site plans, the old site plan had many more RV parking. And our city reviewed the zoning ordinance and made a decision that RV parking is not required of an apartment project. They are required of a townhomes and condominiums. So therefore they have reduced the number of RV parking and submitted a revised site plan, which is before you for tonight approval.
So I understand that aspect, sir, but if you are referring site plan review here,
We can reflect the change in the resolution that goes to the city council.
yeah, that's what I am saying. So
Okay.
thank you, I
We'll make-
appreciate that. And go to, page 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5th paragraph. It says, whereas on July 26, 2018, I don't know where that date came from.
What are you reading?
Right here.
Oh, whereas July 26, 2018,
It
duly,
should reflect the date of today.
Today, yeah. I'm trying to make sure the resolutions are correct though, so. And then if we go to page 26 of GPA, condition number 5, it says owner shall prepare and record reciprocal easement and other agreements between the owners of parcel 12 and parcel 14, but whereas in the resolution for site plan approval, we are saying they need to merge the parcels. So which one are we doing here?
This is what you are referring to is the development agreement between the city and the applicant.
I understand that.
Right. And in terms of developing the property, and it has to be merged before the development starts or during the development, because otherwise the site plan doesn't meet the code requirements in terms of reciprocal parking agreements, property line, building distance to the property line, and various other things comes into play. And
so don't you think we should stipulate the condition, I mean, that the parcel should be merged instead of some reciprocal easement agreement? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. This is a statement in the development agreement. It refers to parcel 12 and 14 of the, based on the assessor's parcel book, page and numbers. And that's what it is now. Because it is now not the merged parcel that's entering into a development agreement, I believe that's what this is being referred to.
Okay.
Parcel 12 and 14 under the assessor's parcel map.
You are satisfied with that?
yes.
And on page 29, item 13C, under security, city may require owner to provide an irrevocable standby letter of credit or other form of security acceptable to city in the amount of city council determines. So do we know how much it would be approximately? Or at least does the applicant know how much they are getting into?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, could you please repeat that for me?
Item, page number 29, 13C.
Well, no. You see, those securities are dependent upon the engineer's cost estimate.
Okay.
So once we get an engineer's cost estimate, we'd be able to determine that security.
So the owners are aware of this, right? So you don't know how much it would be at this time?
No, sir, we wouldn't. Okay. No, not at this time.
Thank you, sir.
So I noticed in C also, the option was not given to him to bond it.
Yeah.
Well, securities can be a bond, cash, or some instrument, a letter of credit from a accredited lending institution.
Well, there just wasn't mention of bonding. I just know that in our construction we always bonded because it was cheaper to buy an insurance policy than it was to actually put up security.
Yeah. Well, the municipal code, however, in the subdivision section allows a bond, cash, or an instrument of credit from a accredited lending institution.
Okay.
And going to page number 40, again the same date of site plan review. It has to be 5/4/18 instead of April 6, 2017.
Your page 14 is not ours, I don't think.
40.
Oh, 40. Okay, and then where are you? Solomon.
Right here.
We will make that change.
Instead of April 6, 2017, we need to say 5/4/18. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Witten.
Yes, I heard some discussion about a lot merger, and I don't recall seeing that in the staff report. Is it?
Yeah, it is in there.
Well, that's a problem, because actually right now we have 2 parcels. Ultimately, for the project, we're probably going to need 3 parcels, because it's going to be done in 3 phases. And we don't want to encumber phase 1 with financing associated with phase 2, et cetera. Now, we can come back at a later date and process a parcel map. That would be relatively easy to do.
If I'm remembering right, when I read that, it was a lot line merger by the time the development is through, not before you do construction, but by the time you're through, that is a single tax ID number, right? Yeah. And so there isn't, hey, you have to have that done in 6 months or before you can construct. Mm-hmm. It's at the certificate of occupancy.
Okay, yeah, the only problem with that is that if we end up using different financial entities for, say, phase 1 is, I don't anticipate the developer needing any financing, but then phase 2 would be financed. They don't want to encumber phase 1 with the financing of phase 2, and then phase 3 would be the same thing. So perhaps we could, well, let's leave the language the way it is. We can come back at a later time with a parcel map.
The only concern that I have with that is that if your phase 2 crosses a line as prescribed right now, that creates a problem for your finance company, period.
No, but we can adjust, we could do a lot line adjustment,
yes,
to deal with that between phases 1 and phase 2. And then at phase 3, we would need to do a parcel map waiver or a parcel map to create that third parcel so that phases 2 and 3 are separated.
Right.
So,
well, I didn't read it as though we had to have the lot line, or the have it removed right, prior to approval of zone change.
Right.
So
okay,
I don't think that'll hold up your project.
Right. Okay. So we'll deal with that down the road.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Commissioners? We'll take a bite out of each one of these. Planning Commission Resolution 18-22, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Ridgecrest recommending that the City Council adopt a resolution approving General Plan Amendment GPA 17-01 and authorize the City Manager to enter into a development agreement between the City of Ridgecrest and the Ridgecrest Investors, LLC, and 900 Downs, LLC, and adopt an ordinance approving Zone Change 17-01 for the project, known as Red Rock, located north and west Bowman Road and on the east side of South Downs. With the one correction of the date, and we're using May 5th, correct? So I'm moving that we May 4th. So I'm moving that we approve that. Do I have a second?
Second. Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Yates.
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner Dehan.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Planning Commission Resolution 18-23, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Ridgecrest approving a site plan review SPR 17-06, a request to develop 13.32 acres property APN 479-010-14 and 479-010-12 into a 198-unit multifamily residential community in 3 phases by Ridgecrest Investors, LLC, and 900 Downs, LLC, located north and west Bowman Road, and in the east side and south Down Street. I move that we approve that with the date change of 5/4/18. Do I have a second?
Second.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Yates?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner Dehan? Aye. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have site plan review SPR 18-08, but we're continuing that, right? Sunland Apartments?
Correct.
Okay. Site plan review SPR 18-07, Holiday Inn Express. Consideration of a site plan review 18-07, an application to allow for the development of a 4-story Holiday Inn Express MPAD for future retail sites on 2.46 acres of commercial service CS zone land located on China Lake Boulevard, APN 033-080-04. Staff report.
So this property was recently purchased with the intent of developing the proposed hotel. The site is currently vacant land. The adjacent properties consist of the hospital administration building to the north, vacant land.
No,
What's that?
you're talking about hotel or?
We're talking about the hotel.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Okay. So the hospital administrative building is to the north. There's vacant land to the east. To the south is the AutoZone and Kmart, and to the west is China Lake Boulevard and the hospital across from that. The site is 2.4 acres. The hotel development consists of 1.85 acres, and the remaining pad is 0.65 acres. The proposed hotel is 4 stories with 103 rooms, a meeting room, and a conference room. The building elevation is 59.8 feet. The height limit for commercial service is 60 feet. This project was circulated to the Navy, Kern County Fire, and Caltrans. The Navy had no concern in the height. Kern County Fire has reviewed the project and conditioned additional fire sprinklers due to the building height. There is some exteriors and floor plans. Staff recommends that the Commission approve Resolution 1820, subject to the conditions of approval.
Is that
That
the end of the
concludes.
staff report?
Yes.
Commissioner, comments? So, Heather, just clarify for us, a couple of concerns that I had that wasn't in the staff report is the Kern County Fire Department, did they view this plan?
Yes, it was submitted to Kern County for review. Kern County typically would require that buildings not be over 55 feet. However, due to the nature of the construction being a hotel, they just conditioned them to have additional sprinkler systems, and that included the attic and also additional alarms.
Okay, because I was concerned they don't have a ladder truck here.
That's correct, and they are aware.
Okay, and then you did submit this to the Navy, and it is in the operations area, but they're aware of the noise or flight
I
path?
believe that John may be able to provide a comment here for us.
John Kersey, CPLO for North China Lake. The main concerns that we showed, one, there is some potential for concern on the height of the building, but that's one thing that we'll have to clear through Air Ops. We don't think it'll be, but it's still one that we would want them to review. Noise is definitely a consideration under the ACUS. It is within the 60 to 65 dB range, so there's definitely going to be a noise consideration similar to the existing hotels. From there, of course, we're also going to have lighting concerns, just no strobe lights, upward facing lights, things like that. Those were also factors that we pointed out. So
You're requiring them, if they build this, you're requiring them to put a red strobe light on?
No.
No? Okay.
No, just the normal dark skies type ordinance is what we would consider compatible use for lighting.
All right.
Similar to what you're proposing basically on the Red Rock Villa. All shielded lighting facing down. And then, of course, lighting, preferably not the bright LED lights.
So is it the base's opinion that we should hold off until you get results back on whether it's going to interfere with flight operations? Or
on the height, for the most part, we do not perceive it to be an issue.
Okay.
It'd just be getting a final consideration. But the other point that we did bring up was also the same concern, being that we, of course, have mutual aid, and the only ladder truck in the area is the Navy, and ours does not go that high.
Okay.
From my understanding, it's 3 stories about the limit it can handle.
Yeah, and that was the concern I had, is whether or not Kern County had signed off on it. So, thank you, sir. I do have one other question for staff, and I don't know who could answer it. Is does the developer aware that he's right across the street from a helipad, and the noise factor? The neighbors on the west side have complained about the noise when the helicopter comes in. I'm just wondering if they're aware of the noise and they took that into the factor on that particular property.
They are aware. I don't know if the developer, the architect would like to comment, or...
I'd hate to have you build a 4-story hotel and then go, oh, by the way, we didn't know.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Bob Tuttle. I'm the architect for the project, and the owner is Dal Jinder, who's with us.
I'm Daljinder Jahan. I'm the developer of this hotel.
We were not aware, now perhaps the city told us and it escaped us, but we were not aware of the noise from the helipad. However, we typically work with an acoustical consultant on our projects, and we will have him evaluate the noise and give us the recommendations, because we're required by the Holiday Inn Express brand to provide a certain level of sound within the guest rooms, and we want to comply with that. Sometimes that requires extra measures on the windows, but we, appreciate you bringing it to our attention. But I think we'll want to address that.
Yes.
So the question I have for you, and the reason I brought it up, is do you want us to move forward here tonight, or do you want us to continue this?
Continue.
What? Do you want to continue?
Yeah, that's not a big deal. We're going to put that kind of window, so noise window, so noise doesn't come inside the hotel.
So you want to continue to another time? Okay, so I think we want to continue.
Pardon me?
I think we'd like to continue to another time and evaluate. No, you want to do it today?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood. We'd like to proceed today.
Well, just everything on the table, because these would be questions that I would be asking if I was building it. And I'm sure others here would have similar questions, so I don't want you to not be aware of our own demographics. So, okay, thank you. Commissioner, comments?
I had a question. The 103 rooms and 105 parking stalls, that seems a little slim with meeting space. Is that accurate? Those numbers?
What our code requires is one for each guest room and one for every 2 full-time employees.
So 103 rooms and 105 stalls. That doesn't compute.
Could I comment on that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Generally, the meeting room is used during the daytime. It's not used in the evenings, and it's generally for hotel guests, but of course it will be available for outside public uses. But with the hotel operation, the parking, the maximum parking is reached only late at night. Probably after 11 o'clock, when your last guest checks in, is when the parking lot is full. Then beginning early in the morning, guests begin to leave. And we find that for small meeting rooms like this, there's no additional parking required, because by the time a meeting starts, even as early as 8 or 9 o'clock, as many as 20 or 25% of your guests have already left. And so generally speaking, it's not an issue at all with a hotel of this nature. If it was a large meeting room with 5,000 square feet or something like that, it would be more of a consideration. But because the way the parking works with the guests and the maximum parking being late at night and then people beginning to leave in the morning, the same is true of the staff, because the night staff, there's a maximum of 2 people at night, and so generally speaking, 2 extra stalls for staff is more than adequate. When the larger group of staff comes in the morning, the guests are already beginning to leave, so we generally don't have any problem with even 1 parking space per room on most hotels. Works very well.
But don't we have
but
to
if
go
there's
by
a
the code?
City code.
Yeah.
Well, the city, I think
It requires 1 parking space per 2 full-time employees.
Okay.
So I don't know how many full-time employees they have on duty at a single time.
I see.
If they had 4 full-time employees on duty at a single time, that would be sufficient parking.
Okay, so we have 2 full-time employees at night and 4 full-time employees during the daytime.
Okay. That means two
There'll be more shifts, but
meets the minimum requirement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can.
Any other comments from the commission? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to turn the time over to the public for public comment, if any.
Jim Suvers, CEO, Ridgecrest Hospital, 1081 North China Lake Boulevard. And not commenting again on the project. I would love to see that land developed, actually. We do have concerns about our heliport. As you know, we are moving the heliport to make it easier on our neighbors behind us as part of our new ER project. We didn't have a lot of lead time on this, but we did run it by our consultant who called the FAA, and a 4-story hotel with the equipment on the top is going to interfere with our flight path, and we will be boxed in and not be able to have any flight paths if we honor our commitment to the neighbors in the back. So we at least need to have more discussion with the architect of this, but I'm very, very concerned this is going to interfere with our ability to provide patient care and transport, particularly with a new helipad or even the existing helipad.
When you brought your addition and change to the Planning Commission and we looked at it, did we not talk about that the flight path was right down China Lake Boulevard?
Yes.
Okay,
And
this particular project is set back, if I remember, 30 feet? Where's the architect?
It's more than 30 feet back. I don't know the net. It's about 100 feet, maybe 90 feet back. Oh, no more than that. There's 60 in the parking lot, so 130 feet back from the China Lake Boulevard, probably the building.
So what I'm asking is basically, and it's an opinion, you have a rotor blade of 14 to 16 feet, which the China Lake Boulevard is more than triple that or double that, and they're on a setback of more than 100 feet. I'm not sure how that interferes with your flight path.
You know, and I can't speak for the FAA. I think a discussion needs to occur, and if it can be worked out, that's totally fine. I just don't want to appear to have any expertise in helicopters and the engineering part of it, although there are several smart people in the room that know far more than I do on this. But I need to bring it up because I don't want to get in a position where patient care is impacted. But we really do need
we don't want to interfere
with
with patient care.
Yeah, we do need a discussion with the FAA, and if we can work it out, you'll have our full support on this. But we didn't have a lot of lead time on this, and I apologize for doing it this way. But I have to look after the interest of our patients in our valley. So
thank you.
Okay.
So the architect and the developer, if we approve this with a condition of the approval of the FAA, would that be acceptable to you? That also gives you a chance to look at the noise factor.
Give them a 2-minute break.
Well, no, we'll move on and come back. Would you like to go out and talk about it, and we'll move on to another agenda item and come back to you?
That'd be good.
All right, so yeah, we'll come back to you. So we'll continue this for a minute. Okay, moving on to item 8, discussion and other action items. Extension, tentative track map 6814, consideration for a 1-year extension to the tentative track map 6814, a request to create 147 single-family residential lots on 50.45 gross acres. Staff report.
Okay, so this is just a request for a 1-year extension. This map was previously approved in June of 2006. The map has been extended by acts of state legislature. The item was scheduled for June of this year, but was continued in order for Public Works to address concerns with the project. The applicant has agreed to an addition of a new condition to be annexed into DBAD 2016. It's an on-site drainage detention basin. The subdivision is located at the intersection of Springer and Norma Street, with the majority of the tract covering the areas between Springer and Franklin Avenues from Norma to Warner Street, and the remaining portion of the tract located east of Warner Street, bordering the partially recorded tract 6221. This is the map. Staff would recommend the adoption of Resolution 1813 approving the 1-year extension.
Is that it?
That's it.
Commissioners, comments? Who's the applicant on this?
Ridgecrest Estates.
So this was put together in 2006, and because of the economy, the state stepped in and gave them a grace period. They're coming back. The other question that I have is, as the developer had conversation with the city, what's their construction plans, if they have a construction plan, or they just want to extend it for a year?
The applicant is Ridgecrest Estates, and I do believe that Lauren has spoken with them.
Lauren, can you give some light to that? I mean, we're talking about a 12-year-old track map that I'm okay if they're going to move forward. If they're not, then I'm not sure that we should. But
it was, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I was informed that they wish to have a time extension on this for speculation of land sale. They wish to keep the map alive. There has been inquiry. Local real estate agent has been into the city. He does have someone that's interested in this project. So
okay.
There is activity I can speak to, but I do know that the Ridgecrest Estates LLC wishes to keep the map alive for speculation of land sale.
That makes sense. Okay. It doesn't really matter who the developer is then. Okay. So, Commissioner, any comments? Any comments from the public on this one? If not, Planning Commission Resolution 0649, resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Ridgecrest approving tentative tract map 6814 to create 147 single-family residential lots located north of Springer Avenue, east of Norma Street, on 50.45 acres, APN 510-020-14, 15 and 16, and 119. The recommendation is approval, so I will put a motion that we approve the one-year extension. Do I have a second?
Second.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam?
Aye.
Commissioner Yates?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner Dahan?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, so I see that they're not back yet. Lauren, last month you conducted some of the staff report, and Officer Booth isn't here, and we gave a 30-day extension on an abatement. Do we know what happened to that 30-day abatement? Did he sell the property, or did the abatement go into effect?
I'm sorry, I don't have any additional information for you. I haven't discussed that with the officer.
Okay, Heather, can you let us know the disposition of that?
I will, yes.
Thank you. So we'll move on to number 9, Commissioner items and comments, committee reports. Jessica?
Yes, so I can speak for the infrastructure meeting. Just a few highlights from that the Navy has granted right of easement to the water treatment facility on base, but we still don't have a formal agreement or timeline just yet, but at least there's been a little bit of movement on that. And we did have the budget approval to buy our own slurry machine, so we should start training new employees in the spring. So that will be a project done by the city, so we don't have to contract out for that. Would you like to speak to some Parks and Recreation stuff?
I think he's going to do Parks and Rec.
I'm not on Parks.
No, I guess you are.
Okay. Well, just the only thing from Parks and Rec to update on is that there will be the tax assessment ballot to be mailed out soon, and that will, if it is passed by the public, would provide a plan to get initiatives like penny pull and improvements in our parks and at the senior center. So that is a tax assessment that is in the works as a solution to bring back penny pull.
Thank you. Mr. Ferris.
Economic development, we discussed broadband and high-speed fiber. Also discussed the next ICSC show in Los Angeles and who will be attending. So hopefully bringing new and attracting new businesses to Ridgecrest.
Any progress on broadband? It has been going on for the last 3-4 years. So
They're working, it's getting closer all the time.
So as a comment that I did send an email to our city manager, as far as that's concerned, have somebody contact Frontier, not on DSL, but broadband, because they also do cable. Right now we've got one provider, and since they're already here, they can probably compete because they already are in the easements, they already have their franchise. It may ease some of that process up if they're willing to come in and put the infrastructure in.
That's been discussed.
Okay. Cecil?
City org, we discussed about the sales tax and property tax. So we are continuing that discussion for the next meeting again.
Okay. That's it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner comments? Jessica?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay.
Nothing.
Cecil, it's up to you.
Kudos to
Hello.
Jessica. I mean, not Jessica. She's down there.
Heather.
Heather and staff for putting together this large packet. I know it wasn't easy and being so informative to us because I had some issues with my email. So thanks, Heather.
Thank you. Solomon?
I'm glad to see we have so many apartments coming up. As per the base, they needed more housing, and IWE EDC is working towards that, so really appreciate their work. Thank you very much, Mr. O'Neill, for your leadership on EDC.
Yeah, it's nice to see us looking at the square footages of the 2 bedrooms and the 3 bedrooms, so that's nice for these young families that are coming in. So it's nice to see that interest. Future agenda items. Heather, do you have some that are coming up?
We have an application for another apartment complex. That is the Villa Crest. So we're working on that right now. I don't have a date for when that would be on the agenda yet.
How many units is that?
301.
301?
Yes.
Is it phased?
Wow.
It is phased, and it borders Red Rock. It's adjacent to that.
Okay.
And how many phases?
Any other things that are coming up? Restaurants? Shopping centers?
Not at this time.
Amazon.
Amazon.
Aerospace industry?
I don't think we addressed the retail pad. That was with the Holiday Inn Express, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Did we get any details on what they're thinking there? Because all it just said was retail in general.
They don't have it planned yet. They would have to come back when they do.
Should we call them?
Yeah, so, Ron, I was going to have you ask them to come back in because we're ready to either continue it or close. So, Lauren, we did get a final on the Starbucks, right?
Yes, sir.
The ADA approach is in and the asphalt is done. And so I don't know how many of the public might be watching. I was told that we have quite a following. But my understanding is that PD has asked them not to write a ticket if they cross that double yellow line because it's a problem. If they go there and then want to go home, turn left. So there is going to be some relief there. I've been asked a number of places, what's happening there. But the double striping was put in as per Caltrans, and it's required, and so PD is giving some allowances there. Any other past projects that you need information on or you have concerns over?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
No. What's the update on Warren's project? Where do we stand on that?
I'm sitting right here.
Not you.
The parcel map 12200, which is the Warren's parcel map, it's moving right along. The contractor has started work on Sanders. We had a little bit of an issue we're going to look at in further detail. The Sanders Street was considered a substandard street, and they started doing some milling of the surface there. There was a hump there that they had to mill down, and we're finding that the amount of the old desert mix for a substandard street was very thin, so we may have to take a look at that and look at what we might do to correct that issue there. But they're moving right along. They've completed most of the improvements along the Caltrans frontage there, and so now they're concentrating their effort along the Sanders Street frontage.
Mr. Culp, I have one more question. What's the building on the corner of Upjohn and China Lake Boulevard?
I'm sorry, the corner of Upjohn and where?
China Lake. So the old PG&E building, or Verizon?
That's SCE.
SCE building?
Yes.
Their own building?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a modernization project that SCE has underway.
And that actually came here for approval.
Yeah, that had a site plan review and approval.
Did you get any answer back on their commitment to put in the streetlights?
No, I haven't. I sent them the plans, the improvement plans for it. There's a set of civil drawings that were prepared for the project that shows the street lighting.
Yeah, that was part of the condition, and I just didn't see any electrical or provision for it, and so.
Right. I've made the building department aware of that there's some off-site improvements, so that they're conscious of the requirement. And but no, after sending the improvement plans to the project manager, I've not heard back from him whether he's confirmed that or not.
Yeah, you might follow up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Developer, owner, would you come up to the mic, please? So we're back on PC's Resolution 1820, Holiday Inn Express, and the public hearing is still in effect.
Oh, very good. Thank you. We've had a discussion with Jim, and we would like to work with him and get him whatever information that he needs so that we can get a determination from the FAA. If we could make that one of the conditions of approval, we would like to proceed tonight.
Okay. So what we're going to probably do is add two conditions. One is the FAA. The other is that the Navy doesn't have a problem. The Navy has already said they probably don't have a problem, but we ought to probably get an answer.
I will get you on.
Okay. But,
Thank you.
you know, I don't think either one of those are going to be really hard to obtain, but I'd probably like to add that as those two conditions. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Commission? Okay, so we have Resolution 18-20, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Ridgecrest approving a site plan review 18-07.
Excuse me? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
sir.
I did want to discuss one item.
Sure.
On the conditions.
Sure.
And I didn't mean to interrupt you. But one of the conditions is regarding the street improvements. It's proposed to be a private street going down between the lots. And it's too narrow for a public street. I think we had a discussion with the city engineer about this, but we're showing a cul-de-sac, and we are having a challenge with the seller of the property, who's a little bit unwilling to work with us on sharing costs for that street. And we wondered if it's possible for us to just build the portion of the street directly in front of the hotel without the cul-de-sac, because we're providing a full turnaround all the way around the building, so that we don't have to incur as much expense that we may have difficulty getting reimbursed for from the future sale of the adjoining parcels. Does that make any sense at all?
It does. I'm asking her to bring up the this one.
That's the one.
Okay. If I bring you the pointer, you want to show us where you're talking about and what your thoughts are?
Sure.
You might want to come right out front here.
So one of the conditions is that we, oh yeah, maybe you can see it, I don't know, there's a proposed cul-de-sac. We're required to do a fire department turnaround at the end of that private street right here. 90-foot full circle.
So right here.
That's where your cul-de-sac is the end of that.
Right, for the fire department turnaround, we're wondering if we could omit that, because the fire department can come through the property to do a turnaround. That way we only have to build the street in front of our parcel and not, a large cul-de-sac that also would have to be on the other parcels that we don't own. So throw that out as a question.
Okay, so Lauren, typically we've asked developers to develop half of a road. This is a private road. Are we asking them to do both sides?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are. We see that this is a non-standard roadway. It's not a public access roadway. And in looking at the width of the roadway, we were considering the type of traffic there. That roadway will eventually make it all the way over to Chelsea, and there will be public usage of it. However, it does not meet a standard in terms of width. So we felt that in the interest of vehicle safety, traffic safety, that it would be prudent to require the full width to be improved along that frontage. We also were concerned about emergency vehicle turnaround, and the preferred option is a 90-foot radius at the end, a cul-de-sac at the end. It's a temporary emergency turnaround. Now, there's other configurations that can be configured for emergency vehicles. There's what's called hammerheads and other configuration of allowing an emergency vehicle, particularly fire trucks, to be able to turn around.
How wide is that road?
The roadway width is I believe that it is a 28-foot.
Yeah, it's 28 feet.
Feet from face of curb to face of curb. So
okay.
You have a very narrow roadway, and the concern there was the fact that it will continue all the way to Chelsea. It will serve other parcels that are along that route. This is a parcel map. This is only one lot out of the parcel map. And so there will be other commercial land uses adjoining. And the roadway width being a non-standard width, we felt it prudent that the improvements should be along the full reach of this particular project.
So my concern, I have some concerns with that, but and so I have a question for the developer, and I'm not making any assumptions here. I'm just having a question here. If this is your access off of China Lake Boulevard, you need traffic going two directions. If you only developed half of that, you would only have traffic one direction. So my suggestion is this. You're right. They can use the parking lot to turn around if they need to, if it's an emergency vehicle, because the only one they're servicing right now is you. And if they're going to eventually extend on to Chelsea, then that will take care of any turnaround. But my suggestion is I would have them complete the full width, but not do curb and gutter on the north side.
That's what's proposed, and we're okay with that. It's proposed that we put curb, gutter, and sidewalk on our side.
Right.
That we build the full width of the road, but just put an asphalt curb along the north side. You know, a temporary asphalt curb
Right.
on the north side. We were just like to avoid building the cul-de-sac turnaround and suggest that the emergency vehicles can use our parking lot to turn around, which is why we went all the way around the building anyway with our roadway.
So I understand where the city's from, and I understand where you're from. Commissioner, comments? You have frustrations, or do you feel like if they built the full width and did not do the cul-de-sac, that if there was an emergency, that they could use the parking lot as a U-turn?
My question is, where is the road going to come in contact with Chelsea Avenue? I'm still confused on where that access is going to be.
So that'll extend down here, right, Warren?
Yes, it's on that same projection. There's no other curves. The only curve is there at
currently paved,
China Lake.
because
So
it's undeveloped. This would just extend straight down.
So we're asking them to put a cul-de-sac on something now, which we would then basically
Abandon.
obliterate and extend. So I just don't see the purpose of forcing that on them if we're not even going to keep it. Seems a little bit of a unnecessary burden.
And which that is not our property, and the seller, the owner of the property, he is not allowing us, work with us to get the cul-de-sac on his property. What we're trying to say, we can build the road, the end of our property. So if there is an emergency vehicle, there is a in and out access. They can use our land, our parking lot to go in and out from our land. So we don't have to, bother to the seller and bother to the rest of the property owner. That's what we're trying to ask.
Yeah, I think in relationship to this development, the only person served by emergency vehicles is the development, and they would be in that parking lot anyway.
Is that something that the Kern County Fire is going to have to determine, though, not us, on whether that's acceptable to them?
I wouldn't think so.
They did not say anything about that in the conditions that they sent us.
Okay.
I understand why the city's asking it,
Sure.
but I would offer them relief from that personally.
So what is Mr. Culp's? So what do you think about their proposition, Mr. Culp?
well, I do think that that easterly most driveway could possibly function to serve any emergency vehicle turnaround. When I think of emergency vehicles, I think of police, fire. I also think of ambulance. And so if that easterly driveway, if the commission feels that that would suffice for all those emergency vehicle needs, then staff would defer to the commission's decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So to clarify then, we're wanting to strike A1A when it talks about the 28-foot, we want it to be the standardized width instead?
No, we're leaving it the 20 feet.
We are still leaving
because
that,
if the
okay.
land is developed to the north of it, that will then
That will
become a
extend.
standard.
Okay.
So that's all staying the same. The only thing we're relieving is the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
So that will be the omission.
So H.
Okay, so we have Resolution 1820, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Ridgecrest approving site plan review 18-07 on application to allow the development of a 4-story Holiday Inn Express and pad for a future retail site on 2.46 acres of commercial service CS zone land located on China Lake Boulevard. APN 033-080-04. I move that we approve with the conditions mentioned with the FAA and the Navy, as well as relief on the cul-de-sac on the private drive. Do I have a second?
Second.
Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Commissioner Yates,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Dehan.
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Before I adjourn, is there any other comments from the public that they would like to share, or staff on future items? Lauren, or anything? We're good? We're good? Okay, then I will adjourn at 7:35. Thank you.